Right. Hello, Journal. Let's get this thing started. My name is Dr. Spencer Thorne, and this journal will act as my personal documentation of my research into Killington. Killington is a small town in the north which is surrounded by woods. In the past week, the world has seen an increase of fungi in natural locations, and they appear to have a stronger resistance than before. At the same time, satellites picked up something interesting. A fairy ring had formed. But it wasn't the small ones commonly found in the garden. No, this was much bigger, encompassing many towns, cities, and lakes. The scale of the mycelium alone was enough to get me interested. So of course I did what any good mycologist would do, and dug around a little deeper. Using a scale map, I managed to find the center of the circle, a small town called Killington. As most fairy rings stem from one type of fungi underground, I wanted to see what was there. Before I could book a visit, I was alerted that Killington had been put into lockdown, and the government had set up a roadblock for visitors. I'm hoping I can pose as a scientist for a government-backed expedition to have a look around. Well, Plan 1 was immediately ruined. I even showed the guy my PhD, and still nothing. Must be on some strict orders on locking that place up, which, if anything, has just deepened my curiosity to get in there. While getting lost, I managed to have a look around to see if there was another way in, but it seems the government has just put up some sort of fence around the areas, as well as armed guards just waiting. And the thing bothers me is that they're just all on the outside. Are they trying to keep us out, or keep something in? The only way I can think of as getting in is the cargo train that passes through. I could pack light and train hop, getting off when it slows to prepare to go around the corner in the track bend in Killington. That would mean wild camping, which I haven't done for a while, so it'd be nice to get back to it. I guess that means breaking out the camping equipment. I'll update this when I find a home base. Okay, so small update. Managed to make it in okay. It was a tougher time than I was expecting. Getting on it was fine enough. The train was at a standstill at the station, but getting off at the corner was tough. I had to psych myself up for a few minutes, and even with the train slowing, the trees were still zooming past. Honestly, my hand is still shaking while writing this. Hopefully I can read this later. I did manage to get off, though. I think I have a killer bruise on my shoulder, but I'm sure it'll heal up in no time. It was eerily quiet within the forest. There was wildlife, but I heard a lot less birds than I would have expected, and there was almost no noise from the town itself. Though if the government was involved, a town-wide evacuation is certainly plausible. There was a nice little clearing area that I used to set up my camp. It's surrounded by enough trees to shelter me from obvious view, and I'll definitely keep things low-key. I don't want a fire drawing too much attention to me, so I'll dig a small fire pit when I need one. While waiting for night to fall, I've taken a note to document some of the fungi around the area. They seem to follow the same trend in the rest of the world in that they're a lot sturdier than usually expected. Normally the chicken of the woods would have fallen apart with a slice of my knife, but to even get a chunk off I had to go at it with my handsaw for a few minutes. Nothing else is off about the texture though. It tastes the same, so perhaps it's just evolved new defenses. There's a new fungus here that I don't recognize, which is always surprising. It appears to have the outward appearance of the common chanterelle, but with the taste and texture and structure of a beef steak. Fistulina hepatica, not the meat, though now I would happily devour a steak. So after studying it here, there was examples of cross-germination, but nothing outwardly different. As they're both edible species, and honestly really tasty, I took a bite. It was great, and honestly, it just tasted like a chanterelle. There's no rush, so I'll probably just sleep tonight and go tomorrow to check the town centre. I was gonna wait till tomorrow to write this, but I'm not entirely sure I dreamt it, so I can write it down now and scribble it out later if needed. And I think there was someone else out there in the dark. It was hard to hear their voice properly. It sounded like they were a little distance away, but it was loud enough to wake me up. Maybe I'm just on edge. I just hadn't expected guards to patrol this close to the area. Even then, it felt off. Like the voice wasn't entirely real. I don't know, it was probably my sleep-deprived state. I went out to scout the area near the tent, but it doesn't seem like there was anything out there. No obvious footprints or mess anywhere, so maybe last night was just a dream after all. Probably just getting nervous, but I really am just here for research, so it's not like I'm a danger to anyone. I packed a small bag with enough supplies for a day, because I might want to stay closer in town for a night for some better research. I made sure to lock up the others and hang them off the ground in case any wildlife decides to get a bit too confident. Looking forward to seeing what I'll find. Okay. So I haven't made it to the center just yet, but I found something much more important. Out there on the outskirts of the woods was a deer. There's only one, and it was unlike any other deer I'd seen before. From a distance it looked fine, but the moment I got closer, slowly, I didn't want to scare it off, its proportions looked off. Like the neck looked longer and it was just a lot skinnier than it should be. Woven into its fur was a group of fungi and flora, which I thought it was just caught, from wandering, but appeared to actually be growing off the animal. Normally, when this sort of parasitic relationship is seen, the animal has little to no retention of its original habits, but the deer seemed in control of its own actions. I wish I could have gotten closer to get a better look. Interactions between life forms like this, when both are equally in control, are hardly seen, but it scampered off while I tried to draw it. Hopefully I will come across it again and do some more research on it. Like I had thought, it had gotten dark by the time I'd finished exploring, so I had to make camp once more. I wasn't making the mistake of sleeping in the cold again, so I holed up inside one of the houses. None of the lights were working, so I went down to the basement to see if it was just the breakers, but that wasn't working either. I think maybe the town's mains were turned off, but it was still slightly light outside, so I had enough time to set up a rough camp inside one of the rooms. I went to the coordinates, but there didn't seem to be anything in there. Getting closer to the town, I noticed that the amount of fungi was starting to increase the further I went, and they seemed to be connected by long vines sprouting flowers. Perhaps there's something underground? I'll have to look around the houses to see what's nearby. Maybe it's in a basement? I'll have to go back to my main camp to get my tools to explore that, though. A task for tomorrow. I'm tired. I was heading to bed, ready to sleep last night, when I noticed that there was a slight glow coming from a few rooms over. Checking on it, it seemed that the mushroom attached to the breaker was glowing, as if being attached to the wires gave it its own power. Follow the wires outside, the entire town had been lit up by the fungi. There was a sight to see, like looking at stars when they were far enough away. The weird thing is, though, I swear I saw some of them moving in the distance. Just my fucking luck. I get back to my camp, and my supplies have been completely destroyed. The rope seems to have been torn, and the cover for my tent has been torn through. That tent was expensive. It might have been those people I heard talking the night before, but they were definitely human voices, even if they were a little weird. They would have used a knife of some sort, and I can say for certain that the tears in my stuff were not clean. Maybe it was just some sort of animal. Perhaps the deer had a territory fight with another one and my stuff had just gotten in the way. Whatever the case, I'm not going to give up that easily. I have enough stuff to make a snare so I can catch some rabbit for protein, and there's enough mushrooms around here to survive on. And I might be better staying in the townhouse. Those guards didn't walk through last night, and if there's some wild animals around, then it would probably be safer for me anyway. If I set up the snares now, I could probably catch something by the time I need to eat. It's been a long time since I've skinned a rabbit, but I'm sure I'll manage. There's enough trees and sticks around for me to create a basic snare trap, and once a rabbit trips it, I can quickly kill it. It won't suffer much. Oh well, time to move over the rest of my things. I found the animal that ripped my stuff. I mean, I only assume I have. I've just put my stuff away in the house when I heard some groans outside. You know, like the stuff that you hear in zombie movies. So I looked outside through the window and there was a dog. It was like the deer I saw a few weeks ago. Its fur was matted with different flowers and fungi. But then I turned around and I noticed the one difference. This dog's fur and skin had eroded on the side of its face, revealing the skull. But everything else was functioning perfectly. I'm starting to wonder now if the relationship was as symbiotic as I first anticipated. It seemed to act naturally, though, running around and sniffing the air before barking, and a few moments later, There was another bark in the distance. It just made me itch watching it walk around with its face out as if it was natural. So I tried to ignore them as I set up my sleeping bag for tonight. I can't sleep. His dogs are outside and wandering, but the groaning started up again, and this time it sounded like whispers. Looking out the window, I could see them prancing about in the road, illuminated by the glow of the mushrooms. And as I watched them, their mouths let out a bark, and it spoke. I swear I'm not going crazy. It was like those voices, twisted and ragged, but it kept calling out for help. I've shut myself into the room now and I have my knife on me, but they just keep screaming. I hardly slept last night. I don't know how they knew I was there. Maybe they'd smelt the rabbit I'd cooked. It was just their cries. It's keeping me on edge even now with the sun up. I swear I heard words and screams. Maybe I should leave. I just need to know what's at the center. I need to find out what's there. The mushrooms have grown again. It's been growing at an incredible rate. Before they were just dotted about the road, only growing thickly in the area near the center. But when I walk, I'll just always be crushing something underfoot. Air's gotten a little thicker too, but I think that's just me being freaked out over the dogs last night. I went to the forest to do a few sketches of the fungus I found growing just from a rock, and while taking a break I glanced up and noticed the deer from before. But this time it had a mass attached to its head, and looking closer, I felt a little sick. Trapped within its antlers was the severed head of another deer. It looked like it'd been snapped clear off. Fungi and flowers growing similarly to the pelt of the victor, but it just consumed a lot more of the head. I was just there for a while, just watching it with a sort of morbid curiosity, as it just stared at me before it left, taking its prize with it. I was starting to get a little darker, so I headed back. I feel like I haven't discovered anything that is in significant importance just yet, though. So tonight, I'm going to have a look around the area again, and break into a few new houses that are closer to the original coordinates, and sneak around to find something. I don't know what to do now. I found someone. I think it was a guard. He was just there in one of the houses, laying against the wall, fused to it, almost like by fungi that had grown from the walls. I'm not proud of how I reacted to it. I'm not used to bodies. I'm used to animal corpses in a lab with fungi that we studied or grew ourselves. He was there and he wasn't even fully decomposed. It looked like he was only there for a week, but the fungi had strewn spores into his body and grown into the muscle tissue. Something that should usually take months. I'm going to set up for the night, try to forget this, and then continue to look for the thing that I came to look for. I feel like it's important, but honestly I can't remember what it is. I'll just read my journal later to remind myself, I guess. I was heading to bed ready to sleep when I noticed that there was a slight glow coming from a few rooms over. Checking on it, it seemed that the mushroom attached to the breaker was glowing, as if attached to the wires gave it its own power, and the fungi absorbed the energy passing it through. Following the wires outside, the whole town had been lit up by fungi. It was quite the sight to see. It's like looking at stars when they were far enough away. They were moving around a little, kind of getting closer, but that's okay. It was comforting. I was out wandering today, and I noticed someone's camp. It had been destroyed, but wildlife had seemed to claim it back, with fungi and wildflowers growing through the plastic tent tarp and metal poles. I think this is a lot better. I hope whoever's camped this was doing okay. It looked like some animal attack had done it. There's a new fungus that was growing around on the tent that I didn't recognize, which is always surprising. I took a bite, and honestly, it tasted really good, reminding me of chanterelle with the rough texture of a beefsteak. The idea of eating meat right now, though, is making me feel a little sick. I collected some to eat later. There's something slightly off, but I don't know how to describe it. I can't keep that itchy feeling at bay, and I know that I haven't had a reaction, because my body's totally fine, and as I've checked it over multiple times. Maybe my subconscious is trying to warn me about something, but I can't think of anything that would be a danger, or else they would warn me. So for now I get to just enjoy exploring the area. Fuck, I should have been more careful. I was carrying some mushroom samples to eat and study when I heard that voice again. This time it was met with one of a woman also groaning and screaming for help. Before I even knew what was happening, 2 dogs had descended upon me, and I recognized the one with a skull for a face. It regarded me for a moment before launching itself at me with the teeth out. Thinking fast, I grabbed my knife to throw at it, and managed to catch it on the other side of its face, and, I kicked it off. That seemed to make its partner mad, as it managed to take a solid bite into my arm. I remember thinking that I hoped it didn't have rabies. I used the knife again, desperate to hit anything, but it just grabbed it and threw it aside. I tried to kick, before scrambling away, and managed to reach the safety of a house. I've locked myself in and can hear them screaming for help in the weird, warped human voices. I'll be staying here until they leave. I've patched myself up, and they are helping me heal. I'll make sure I'll stay put until they've gone. The dogs still haven't left. They say it's only a matter of time before they get bored, but the dogs are hungry like I am, so they're probably waiting for me. But I won't give up. I've almost healed. They have made it a lot easier, so the cut is almost gone. That's good. I've tried to document it for you to follow, Journal. It's very interesting. The flora in the area are growing outside of Kierington as well. The flowers disguise them as we spread out. I am going with them, of course. I just have to find out how. We took a moment last night to all talk through our plans. It was very enlightening, and for once, I've got it, a purpose. Wait. I think I hear gunshots. God damn it, they're crushing us. Are they not watching where they're going? I think I remember them from when I first came here. The dogs have run off screaming again. I think they're after the guards. Maybe I can use this time to get out of here. I'll reply soon. I've got to go.
This journal was taken from a Dr. Spencer Thorne, after he was found trespassing in the area of Kierington during a strict lockdown. Dr. Thorne has since been locked up and is under strict scientific observation as parasitic fungi have grown and attached itself to his brainstem. It seems the fungi, a mycelium, has fused itself with Dr. Thorne's nervous system, though he's retained all motor control. Further studies to be conducted.